I saw a comment today. Somebody told me, "You're telling me Oliveira wasn't in his prime?" He was like he was so close. He almost beat Arman. That's what you call Oliveira's prime? That he almost beat Arman? It reminds me of that scene from Scarface where he shoots the basketball. Or Tony Montana, he shoots the basketball and he misses. It bounces off the rim. And then he takes off. And the dude was like, "Hey, where you going? You almost made it." I already know that people are tired of hearing about Ilia Topuria. It seems like if I make a video lately and I start talking about Ilia, there's two types of people. There's most likely other types of people, but there's two types that I'm referencing in regard to Ilia. It's either people that can't stand hearing about that fool, people that can't stand hearing about the hype. I think in the MMA community, for a certain crowd of people, hearing about Ilia is like hearing about LeBron James. At a certain point, it's like, we get it already. We get that the league is allowing you to hang on long enough because you're the perfect face for a type of agenda and they want you to have all the records. They want you to have your face on every single... You know what I'm saying? There's certain types of people that are tired of hearing about Ilia because they don't like him and they think everything is undeserved and he's nothing but a hype beast. He's nothing but a, let's see if we can manufacture another Conor McGregor. And there's the other side of people that don't want to hear about Ilia on my channel because they believe that I'm an Ilia hater. And they don't want to hear the negativity or, excuse me, I spelled that wrong. They don't want to hear the truth. And I will remind you, look, I've talked papas about John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And the things I've said in regard to John Jones versus Tom Aspinall probably has you all thinking that I hate Aspinall. Aspinall seems like a cool dude. He seems like a gentleman. You watch him in interviews and he's talking about his dad. And he said the other day, "Hey, yeah, if my dad quit being my manager, I probably wouldn't even do it anymore. I love my dad so much." And, you know, I was like, man, this seems like a good dude, a good kid, he seems like a cool dude. Just because I'm speaking truth, just because I say a certain fighter would lose or whatever, doesn't mean that I hate him. But there's people that are already primed and conditioned to think I'm an Ilia hater because of all the truth that I've spoken. And I think that crowd of people are the ones mostly that don't want to hear about him on my channel. The ones that are the fanboys, the ones who have bought the t-shirt. Because they believe that I'm going to expose. It reminds me, yesterday for the 4th of July, I was at a relative's house. And we were playing a annual volleyball game. And there was this one dude that he farted. He farted mid-game. And everybody thought it was hilarious. Which it was. Except the dude that farted. And that was very early on in the evening. So there was plenty of time after the fact to continue to bring it up and laugh. Like 2.5 hours later, we're like, "Hey, remember when that fool farted?" And it was like not trying to make him feel bad. Like it wasn't even about him at that point. Like the fart it had transcended. It was bigger than all of us at that point. It was just something. And then again, like 5 hours later, it's like, "Hey, remember when that fool farted?" And he started getting upset about it. He was embarrassed. He didn't do it on purpose. Well, I think he thought that it was going to be a SBD. It felt like before it had come out of his body, I think it felt like a silent but deadly. But then it was one of those accidentals, you know? And then he got embarrassed. I believe that's how Ilia Topuria fans feel when I talk about Ilia. Because they're already primed to feel like I'm going to say things that make them feel uncomfortable, that make them embarrassed. And it's gotten to the point now where I don't even have to say it. Just like the pedo, just like the fart, it has transcended. It has grown bigger than myself. Arman Tsarukyan is on Twitter, and he's talking about how Ilia has never fought anyone that is in their prime. And I never received so many comments about a Pacific incident like that, so many comments and DMs, since Tony Ferguson stole Dana White privilege from me. And if you're new to the channel, yes, I coined Dana White privilege, and I even made a video about it after that whole thing happened, and Dana White said it's the funniest thing he ever heard in his life. And I timestamped it and showed dates and was like, yeah, I am the founder and grandmaster of Dana White privilege. And this video was sponsored by my Patreon with new videos every weekday. For reals. But people started sending me comments and DMs. They're like, hey, Grandmaster Arman must watch your videos. He's talking about how Ilia never fought anyone in his prime before. And I knew immediately. There wasn't even a second where I thought I could take credit for that. I don't know if Arman watches my videos. No idea. But I do not at all believe that he would have to watch my videos. And you know what I'm going to say. That's why you're already getting upset. I do not believe whatsoever that Arman has to watch my videos to come to that conclusion. Because Arman, just like everyone else that has already come to that conclusion, they simply have... See, I don't know if you've seen that movie Eyes Wide Shut. That's basically the Ilia Topuria fanboys right now. They got the eyes wide shut. They got the... It's like when you get pink eye and you wake up in the morning and you got the something conjunctivitis or whatever. That's what Ilia Topuria fans currently suffer from. They got that pink eye. And again, I don't hate the fool. He's a likable dude. I enjoy his interviews. I like his state of... I like... It was funny in that one interview, and I caught it. And somebody made an edit of it. I can't remember who it was, but it was hilarious. When he was talking to Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan was like, what do you like to do? And he's like, I like to read books. And then Joe Rogan's like, what kind of book? Because he went kind of hard on like books. He's like, yeah, I love books. I like to read books. I try to read books like... I love books, bro. And then Joe Rogan's like, oh, what kind of books do you read? And then he goes... I love books. It was like on that movie, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, when they were asking Steve Carell, like, if he's ever been, like, with a lady. And he's like, oh, it's like a bag of sand, you know? It felt like, in the moment when I was watching the podcast, I didn't have to, like, think of content. Like, how could I make that fun? Like, in the moment, it felt like that scene with Steve Carell. Where he's like, yeah, I do it all. I don't want to get it too. This is a family show. But he starts giving like these details that don't make any sense. So what I'm trying to get to is that is a conclusion. That is like if I said that I love, and if you are a veteran on this channel, you already know what it is. That would be like if I made a statement claiming how unbelievably good and tasty mayonnaise is. And then Arman came out on his Twitter saying like, hey man, I just discovered mayonnaise. We don't have this back where I come from. And mayonnaise is fantastic. And then people were like, hey, Arman watches your videos. I'd be like, nah, that's just a universal thing. Mayonnaise is amazing. So one way or the other, it's just factual. And I have talked about it quite a bit myself, but I think it's important to note, Ilia Topuria never having fought anyone in their prime is not his fault. That's not me giving him a hard time. That's not me like, and yes, it does seem as though he has definitely picked and chosen different people who he wanted to fight and not fight. But that's not what this video is about right now. For the most part, because even the fools that supposedly he dodged, they're not really the most top of the top contenders or in their prime either. So I don't think it's necessarily Ilia Topuria's fault that he hasn't faced anyone in their prime. Now, there is an argument that could be made. And I'm just being the, Ariel Halweeni's advocate here. there is an argument to be made that maybe you could say Ilia Topuria kind of pushed for the opponents that he has had. Big old fat names, big names, marquee names, pay-per-view names that are out of their prime. Same thing that Jon Jones did. Because all that we keep hearing people talk about, the whole narrative is he beat this guy, he beat that guy, he beat that guy. It's the best 3-fight win streak in history. And it's not just because it's, a lot of people have gone, on a 3-fight streak. It's because the names. It's because the legacy. Well, yeah, he picked 3 fools who are past their prime and are in their own ways GOATs. And that looks unbelievable for him. Now, that's just hypothetical. I'm not saying 100% he did that, but there is absolutely that argument that could be made. And you're mad right now because you know it's true. But again, for the most part, him never having fought anyone in their prime is just as much his fault as it is Tom Aspinall's that Jon Jones refused to fight him. Sometimes these people are innocent. And they catch the strays just because of, being a victim of circumstance. So I'm not going to hold that against Topuria. But I think he's, through no fault of his own, he's inherited this fan base. This prepubescent, immature, cancerous fan base. He has think of it like this, and I'm not going to name any names. But Ilia Topuria has become one of those people in the spotlight, just like even different YouTubers, where the dude himself might be all right, and he's putting that work in, and he's cool, but his fan base is a cancer to the sport. Just 11-year-old hype beasts. And it gives him a bad... Same thing with Adesanya. Same thing with Conor McGregor. And Ilia Topuria has become very unlikable to a large group of people just because of that. Something that he didn't even do. And that's not fair. I would like to stand up for him in regard to that. And there is another case to be made that Topuria's not in his prime either. And that's fair. And that's what you're going to get when you're on this channel. I'm going to give you both sides of the story. I'm not going to do what looks to you as hate. I'm giving truth. They're all over the place. I'm over here playing duck hunt. If I see a bird of truth flying around, I'm going to shoot it down. I'm going to expose it for you. They're all over the place. Nothing but truth. And you should be okay with that. You should not want to be blinded by your own biases. And I'm not going to encourage that. And people keep insisting that, yes, he did fight people in their prime. I just got a fresh comment today. Connor, no. Max Holiday. Wait, I can't read my own handwriting. Why does it? Oh, I could not make sense of that. Max Holiday. People are saying that Max Holiday is in his prime right now because he went to the gym and got himself some muscles, some cute little muscles. And he boxed the face off of Dustin Gaethje. The human rock'em sock'em. The human punching bag. People forget that the reason that they love Dustin Gaethje so much, and I've said it a lot of times, and some of you are tired of hearing it, but I guess it doesn't get retained, so I got to keep repeating myself. People love Dustin Gaethje because he's the UFC's Mick Foley. He's the UFC's Mankind. Terry Funk. Very, very similar to Nate Diaz, Tony Ferguson. They like these people because they leave it on the line. They take a beating. We live vivaciously through them. It's like, man, I could get in there, but and then it's like a good action movie. You gotta see the main character get beat up because then it feels real, and then it feels real like that. He comes back from adversity. That's why people like Dustin Gaethje. It's not because he won the strap, a real strap, and defended it 5 times. No. It's because that fool takes a beating, and we root for the underdog, and we act like he's not an underdog. But that's the whole reason we like him in the first place. It's relatable. Dustin Gaethje's like, I don't know if this is true, but I went deep on Reddit when I saw the news come out about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Apparently, he was doing something with the cartels, and supposedly this one dude was in trouble. And they hung him up they literally hung him like a punching bag. And Julio Cesar Chavez was just teeing off on him. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I read that human punching bag was Dustin Gaethje. They didn't even have to hang him upside down. He would have fought the same way. People are telling me that Ilia Topuria is in his prime, or that he fought Max Holloway in his prime because he beat Dustin Gaethje. He beat the perennial bridesmaid. People are telling me that Ilia Topuria beat Alexander Volkanovski in his pride after he left his prime and his soul in the cage during that first fight against Makhachev, which he won, and then got his head kicked in the next time. And then he beat, who's that dude that he beat from Mexico? What's his name? That's gonna drive me crazy. Let me look up his name real quick. Yair Rodriguez. Alexander Volkanovski leaves everything that fool leaves DNA. In his first match with Makhachev, which I believe he won, and you probably all believe he won, but he still left it in there. He definitely didn't take it back to the hotel with him. Gets knocked out by Makhachev, and then he beats Yair Rodriguez. Beating Yair Rodriguez is like beating Nate Diaz. That's nothing to brag about. That is not how you get yourself to the position to fight Ilia Topuria. And people are calling that the era of his prime. What a perfect time for Topuria to face him. People are saying that Oliveira was in his prime. Some people. This is where it begins to dwindle. But some people are saying, I saw a comment today. Somebody told me, you're telling me Oliveira wasn't in his prime? He was like, he was so close, he almost beat Arman. That's what you call Oliveira's prime? That he almost beat Arman? It reminds me of that scene from Scarface where he shoots the basketball. Or Tony Montana, he shoots the basketball and he misses. It bounces off the rim. And then he takes off. And the dude was like, hey, where you going? You almost made it. That scene has made me crack up since I was a little kid. Even as a little kid, just the nuance of that scene. Hey, where you going? You almost made it. The bar was so low. And that's exactly what we're seeing right here. Hey, Oliveira barely lost, fool. He almost beat Arman. You gonna tell me he's not in his prime? That fool barely lost. And in that same comment, by the way, I know this has been stretched out a little bit. This was all based on one comment. I got a comment today from one dude telling me, you're telling me that Max Holloway, Volkanovski, and Oliveira weren't in their prime? Of course they were. And then he laid out all the things I just said. And then he said, I know your favorite fighter is Khabib Nurmagomedov, which it is. He said, what about him? Who did he ever face in their prime? This dude must have been driving. He was on his way to the store. He'd been on the toilet for too long. His wife was already yelling at him to come. Like, this dude didn't think this one through. Khabib Nurmagomedov probably has the most impressive 3-fight win streak in UFC history. if we want to talk about Khabib's 3-fight win streak, we're talking about Conor McGregor, who I know it's so easy to laugh about now. But you fools weren't laughing at the time. At the time, you guys were acting like Khabib was gonna be dead. Oh, I wish we could go back in time so I could just show you. I could show you like that dude from, that old dude from that Tiny Tim movie. If we could just peep through the window real quick and I could show you how you were acting at that time. Ooh. He beats Conor McGregor. He beats Justin Poirier. He beats Dustin Gaethje. And these weren't defeats because people don't know how to keep their guard hand up. It wasn't a flash like, oh man, if that guy had more time, he'd get back. No, he was choking the life out of all three of these fools. So they said, please stop. Please, I'm done. I've worked my whole life for this moment, but chale. Nah. It wasn't just like, oh, I see it. No. It was them begging for him to let go. And these were old dudes in their prime. Conor McGregor had just come off of becoming double champ. An actual double champ. And I know, again, that's not Topuera's fault now because the rules have changed. If you want to do that, you got to vacate. I get it. However, facts are facts. Conor McGregor was actual double champ, active in 2 divisions, even though, of course, we know that he didn't actually become active. But at that time, it still hadn't been enough. He became double champ. He boxed Floyd Mayweather and went way farther than anyone could have ever imagined and did good. Of course, we know that he carried him and it was all a big show. But for my narrative right now, he had just become double champ, boxed Floyd Mayweather, made all the money in the world, went 10 rounds. Conor McGregor was in his prime. Hadn't broke his leg yet. Hadn't got embarrassed by Poirier. After that, he had Justin Poirier. And you can go and look on the Wikipedia yourself. I don't want to slow this video down, but I did it before I got on here. Before Khabib, Justin Poirier had his best streak ever. And I'm not just talking about 3-0, 4. I'm talking about the people he beat. And then he got dismantled by Khabib. Justin Gaethje, best streak of his life. Same thing as Poirier. Face Khabib, dunzo. Are you kidding me? These were not flash knockouts. These were not people forgetting to keep their hand up. These weren't people getting lazy and getting sloppy. These were people that begged for their life. All in their prime. Now, I didn't bring up Khabib. And I don't know if he's watching this video right now, but the gentleman brought up Khabib. And I'm just responding to you because I don't want to be rude. I don't want to ignore you. I wasn't going to be a bully and pick and talk about the GOAT, Khabib. I was going to let it speak for itself. But you brought his name into this. So you are welcome. Because now if you want to, you can go get on Fight Pass and truly watch the greatest 3-fight win streak of all time, which is by Khabib Nurmagomedov. I want to say one last thing. If you are a Ilia Topuria fanboy, I would urge you and advise you to chill. Because it's backfiring. You're not only making people dislike him, you're causing people to actually expose him. Because when you build him up and hype him up too much, the truth reflects a lot more apparently. It's like, and I know a lot of you have been in this situation. It's like when some dude's talking about this girl that he met or whatever, that he found her Instagram or whatever. And he's just hyping her up. And I never seen someone like this, so beautiful. And like, I can't even imagine. It's like the sunset and like, she's the most, I can't even, like, and then you're like, yeah, fool, yeah, right. And then you kind of buy into it. And you're like, dude, oh, excuse me. I just ate lunch right now. Anyway, he hypes her up and you're like ready to see the most beautiful creature you ever seen in your life, right? And then she shows up, and because of that, you have these lenses on where you're like, well, this better be the best thing I ever seen then. The way he hyped her, and then you see her, And she looks like a Fresno 7. And it's only because of the way that fool hyped her up. It's through no fault of her own. Through no fault of her own. If you would have just saw her organically, if you would have just mobbed into her at like Forever 21, she could have been like a Bakersfield 9. But because of the way that she was hyped up, it messed up the perception. Your expectations were right here to a level that's not even reasonable, not even attainable without Photoshop or a plastic surgeon. And it was that dummy's fault, the way he hyped her up, that now you think she looks like your tia. And I'm not sure if you guys are getting this, but it's the perfect example, just so you know. You guys are hyping this fool up so much that it's making fools come in and be like, are you serious? Best 3-fight win streak ever? Hold up. You know that the internet exists, right? I could pull up some alternatives for you and show you some facts. Oh, you thought those dudes were in their prime? For real? Because Oliveira almost beat Arman? Okay, let me show you some facts. You're hurting your cause. You're making this dude look like an idiot. I would urge you to chill. I would urge you to be modest in your statements. And you could say, you know, Topuria, he actually looks pretty presentable before he puts on his makeup. You know, he's not that bad. And then when other people discover him, they'll be like, hey, man, he actually exceeds what you said. Like, he's not that. You got to learn how to play the game. Even though he kind of does look like he wears makeup.